Hello and welcome to Afternoon Equality. My name is Christy and today I'm talking to Amal Alhuwasyhil, who is an empowerment coach for women and she's also a public speaker. She actually had a TED talk about her journey from Saudi Arabia to Canada and about her decision to essentially stop living without the hijab. I personally don't know that much about Islam and hijab and why women wear the veil and things like that. So I'm very excited to talk to her. I know I'm going to learn a lot. Let's get right into it. Hi, Amal. How are you doing?
I'm so good, Christy. Thanks so much. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you. I'm so glad to be able to connect with you finally. I know it's kind of been a back and forth a little bit, but we're here. We're vaccinated. You're back in, what part of Canada are you in right now?
Montreal.
In Montreal. Right. But so I guess we can just get right into it because that is a big part of your story. So just to kick us off, can you share a bit about your background and what brought you to Montreal, Canada?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, and I moved to Canada back in 2013. I was 24 years old and covered from head to toe. I had just left a fixed marriage I got into when I was 18 years old. It was it was by choice to the capacity that women, girls my age were getting married. I've considered going to study abroad, but my family reminded me that I was at the age of getting married. And really, like, it didn't take much convincing because I knew that if I had left to study abroad and then came back to Canada, I would have missed the train to be married at the age of 23. Now, I do want to say that that was like my age, like my generation, and in my area of Saudi Arabia, that's particular to it. It's different now. The age have increased for girls.
Okay.
So yeah, I said yes to that marriage and I filed for divorce when I was 23 and brought up studying abroad, and my family supported me to go study abroad. So I came to Canada for university. I was learning English in Vancouver to meet the requirements for international students to go to universities. And I did my degree in the Okanagan campus in business. Um, the I moved to Kelowna to the Okanagan to just do 1 year of my program and then
Mhm.
ask for a transfer to Vancouver. And I found that the Okanagan Valley, it's a valley. I don't know if the folks listening to us, it's a valley, it's a winery area. It's like
Okay.
in the summer, beaches, beautiful area.
It sounds fun.
And there was like this gorgeous lake called the Okanagan Lake, and there is like a mythical creature called the Ogobogo that's said to be living in the waters of the Okanagan Lake. Um, yeah, so I lived the. I should mention that it was still the unceded territories of the Okanagan Syilx peoples, and
Okay.
I was privileged to have spent 6 years on those lands to just like hold me through the transition. I was fully covered up when I lived in Vancouver, and then I slowly started to question everything and really look into everything and see, does this align for me? Does it align for me now? It did maybe on some level in the past, but do I want to carry forward? And what is it that I want to carry forward with me? And what is it that I want to leave behind?
hmm
Mhm.
And just to clarify, when you say you were covered up, you're talking about
Yeah,
hijab and
the
the
hijab.
veil and
The hijab. I was wearing regular clothes, but
right.
it would be like I would get a medium or a large size, which I'm an X small. I'm a very petite person, and yeah, I'd like buy bigger clothing so that it's like more baggy and it's not showing of my skin. And I say this as I'm wearing like a very baggy, gorgeous blue shirt. I love it, and nothing shaming about baggy or tight. It's just what we make it to mean, and that was what the culture made not loose clothings to mean, is to be not modest. So
Right.
and I remember one time in the streets, this woman stopped me and thanked me for wearing a colorful hijab
Oh, wow.
versus the other women that were wearing the black or the brown or the blue. And to one extent, yes, and to the other extent, I was like there is that piece of like, oh, you can do you, but do it in my own rules or my own pleasures. And it kind of mimicked another layer of Saudi Arabia of like what you wear. Like we were limited to only wearing the color black in Saudi Arabia. Only
Oh, okay.
recently that women can wear all colors of their hijab and their abayas. And so it's so interesting to have somebody be like, oh, let me tell you what I like in the coloring of your abayas and your hijab versus the other women's coloring of their hijab, as if it's like concerning you. Anyways, I'm sure she had like a well intent, yet
Yeah.
when you look at the depth of it, it's still like sovereignty over other people's choices and their
Yeah.
bodies and what they choose to wear. Hmm.
I think that's so interesting because I mean I know we've talked about this before, but I'm still really unfamiliar with the nuance of you know being covered and hijab and the veil and all that. So if you wouldn't mind, could you explain the significance of wearing it?
Hmm. Yeah, of course. Um, Maybe I'll start by when I was in Vancouver, I was only with international students because they were the ones learning English.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was asking me, like, why do you have to cover up? Why are you covering your hair? And a lot of people have never interacted with a woman wearing the hijab before. And I remember saying over and over, it's my choice. I'm no longer in Saudi Arabia. There is no religious police telling me that I have to be covered up. I'm wearing it still. And so it's my choice. And I reflect back, and I was in third grade when I insisted on my family to be fully covered up, to like have even my face covered up. And it
Mm-hmm.
was this like deep desire to like embody the strong historical women. And even like the girls or folks who grew up in Canada, there is like an aspect, or around the world, there's an aspect of like doing what the adults were doing and like dressing up like your mom or dad or caregiver.
Yeah.
And so that was like a thing for me, and that was like what the adults were doing. The significance of it, as we are taught, is to keep modesty, to have the woman be protected from the gaze of other men, to have women be this pearl and the abaya and her cover is her shield. Um, So we are
Okay.
taught that it's a protection for women and women, female bodied individuals. And it was the shift for me when I was in Vancouver at the end of my stay in Vancouver, where I realized that even the women on female bodies that are dressed in the way they desire, they were still facing that unwanted, like unconsensual attention or harassment.
Right.
And it clicked for me that even I, covered up head to toe in Saudi Arabia, have faced that to some extent. And so it made me wonder of, is this the embodiment of victim blaming? That the first question when a woman is been faced with sexual or assault or harassment is like, what was she wearing? What was she doing walking in this area? Why did she
Right.
go out so late? Why all of the victim blaming mentality is there? And it's, to some extent, I'm like, oh, we're asked to cover up so that we're protecting ourselves. And so if we're not, we are the ones to blame.
Yeah.
And this is like, yes. And then the other piece of not recognizing the humanness or the capacity for men to hold themselves, like there
Yes.
is this complete like, oh, it's totally like her fault. So like do whatever you
Well,
not
it's
even think. And the the no's that are not respected for our bodies, for people around the world, how
Yeah.
many times our no has not been respected. And it's all to that the hijab is a product, as I see it today, of all this patriarchal system.
Yeah. Well, to your point, like it's really unfair to assume that men there are that like, people who identify as men for some reason just do not have the mental capacity to control themselves. Like we're human, we're not animals. And
Mhm.
like and as much as we want to humanize women and our struggles, we also have to humanize men and their ability to think through those actions and to have like the mental capacity to control themselves. Like that is something they can do.
Yeah. And it really like goes hand in hand with the sovereignty over the controlling, the oppression that
Yeah.
female bodies have faced. Um, it was really like painful. I want to use that to come from a place where I was dictated by society on what it means to be a woman, how to dress, what to be, what to do with my body, what to do, like how to be as a woman. And I
Mhm.
moved to Canada and I'm still dictated by society on how to be a woman, how to dress, what to do with my body, what to do with my body's hair. And everything is up for everybody's judgment about me
Yeah.
still. So it makes me like want to take a step back and really think about what is it that and this is like when it first hit me is like, why is this happening? And do folks who grew up in the West see
Mhm.
this too? Or is it just me because I'm experiencing both, and it's so safe for our nervous system to not see it
Yeah.
and to think that something is wrong with us instead of see that the system is not built for us. The system has been oppressive. The thousands of years of like injustices and unsafety that and the sovereignty that we deserved has been taken, and it continues all over the world.
Well, it's like you said, the system is essentially built around victim blaming. We are
Mhm.
for some reason responsible for our own victimhood, which makes no sense. Like instead of teaching people to not do bad things, like we have to try to prevent ourselves from becoming the product of those bad things. And
Mhm.
that just it just again it doesn't make very much sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. But so do you mind if we talk about your TED Talk for a little bit? Because I did watch it and it's amazing.
Thank you.
But something I actually wanted to ask you was you talk about decolonizing women's
Mhm.
bodies, and I want to clarify what that means exactly, or like within the context of how you approach, I guess, empowerment and coaching and your story of, unveiling essentially.
Mhm. Um, I view like decolonization, capitalism, patriarchy, I view them as this like foundation of systems that have worked together
Okay.
and have portrayed the sovereignty of one over the other. So it's in relationship to the othering. And how do we show up in reclamation without practicing the othering? And
Okay.
so how do we talk about like female bodies and vulva owners' bodies empowerment without talking about the disempowerment of another person? Because we're participating in the same system. If we show up empowering this and disempowering that and having a voice that is more sovereign over the other, if and it's and I don't say this to be like, oh yeah, but it's never been hard to be a white man other than now. It is very hard to be a white man in this time and day. And
Mhm.
how do we do it? Because it's uncomfortable and it's like we need to ruffle. And how do we do it without swinging all the way of
Mhm.
sovereignty over again? So I always think about how do we participate and empower instead of like take power over.
Right. Like
Yeah.
finding that balance again versus
Mhm.
like just
Yeah.
switching hands.
And yes, so how does it look like? And I'm not saying that I have the answers, but I'm showing up in practice and in sitting with that practice and in being in spaces with other folks who are talking about this conversation. Um, I'm saying a lot. I often don't but I'm umming. So cheers to the ums.
Yeah. Cheers. You're totally fine. I say like a lot, so you're totally fine.
uh, where was I?
We were
Yes.
well,
So, like, my main focus is to work with female identifying vulva bodied people.
okay.
And I have worked with men who showed up in space of my workshops or whatever, have taken on a like 101 journey with me because I get to show up and work with the women in their lives and get to work with them. And so I view it that not only us women, other minorities, women of color, Black, Indigenous, women with disabilities, LGBTQ plus, and religious minorities, if that is also a topic to talk about. How do we show up and everybody else showing up?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of Martin Luther King's speech.
The I
Um,
have a dream speech.
yes, and it's like in the middle of August. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was 17th of August. It was like so hot, and there was 30% of the folks there who were white.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Black people would be there. It's their movement. It's their dream. And the 30%. So like this showing, all of us showing up, it takes all of us showing up to make that shift. And so how does it look like for all of us to show up so that there is no sway or hate or oppression as we empower?
Yeah. Well,
Mhm,
so going off of that, because you are a coach, like you do help other women to
mhm.
kind of to sit in this empowerment, to find their empowerment, to go through it. What does empowerment mean to you based on your experience? And then how do you help these other women to feel
Oh.
more empowered?
um, Empowerment to me is for me in my journey, is to find my own sovereignty, is to have complete agency over myself, over my body, over my choices, over the cup of tea that I'm drinking.
Hmm.
Um, and how does it look like to show up in my sovereignty, trusting each person's sovereignty in their path and honoring each person's sovereignty in their path? And maybe to take it like to a daily life of being in a partnership or being with a friend who's doing something and you're like, well, you need to do this and you should be doing that, and that's sovereignty over somebody else. And how does it look like to show up and hold space for wherever the person is and continue to be on your own journey, instead of the shooting and the righting and wronging others for what they're doing, what they're not doing, and what they've done.
Hmm.
And so empowerment when it comes to coaching to me is to just be the container, the space holder for others to show up and find the answers within themselves, find the empowerment within themselves, find their own sovereignty, to like realize that they're so worth it and they don't have to do anything to earn it. And that innate power that already relies within them, we just forgot.
Hmm.
And so, and we continue to forget over and over. Like I fall and I'm like, I thought I'm over this. It's a cycle. And the falling and the remembering gets to be the medicine and a part of the journey to come back to our power again and again. And so maybe the base of it is that deep love and acceptance of course we are here. It makes so much sense. Like the physiological signature of the patriarchy, of colonization, of capitalism that lives inside of our body. Of course, it's here. Of course, we're going to default to it over and over again until and as we create this new system within so that we're able to show up and build the system out. And it's going to build itself as we build and come back to here.
I love that. That's so amazing. Um, well, so then speaking on that, how do people find you and your coaching and your programs, and whatever else you're doing?
They can find me on my website. I live on my website. My blog is on my website. I have like, if you want to add me on Facebook friends, that
Mhm.
is also great. I'm like, that's a way because I post my blogs there. Most of the interactions are there. They
Okay.
live on my Facebook, not on my website, but I'm shifting the vision to the website to have the interactions and the space on the website and the blog on the website. Um,
Okay. Perfect.
yeah, I have all the juicy details there. I'm happy to talk about anything if you desire to ask any questions.
Perfect. And then your TED Talk is I found it on YouTube. Is that the best place to find it?
On YouTube, it's also on my website.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there is also a couple of other talks for me of me
Okay.
on YouTube.
Perfect.
So searching my name, my company's name is called Amal Courage. So it's a play on my name,
Cute.
but it's
Amal Courage.
all um is an A
Yeah.
apostrophe and then all. Um I did it myself.
Oh my gosh.
And courage is just like the value that I live my life by, and really always trying to practice moving in courage with love, rooted in love, not
Hmm.
courage to like fight
Yeah.
coming from anger, or courage like of fear of like I need to not fail or I am afraid of failing, so I'm just like gonna force it.
Hmm.
How do I anchor back to courage based and rooted in love?
I love that. Yeah, no, I feel like courage is one of those things that we tend to we're kind of conditioned to relate to, like fighting and aggression and war.
Mhm.
We always like to honor our courageous and things like that, but courage can also be a very subtle thing.
Mhm.
Like it
Mhm.
takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to live, to hold space for yourself and I mean I think that's what a lot of people are starting to realize now, which is I think it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm so glad we got to connect, and I'm going to get all those links for you. So I'll have them in the captions and the show notes and everything.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to share space together.
Yes. Thank you. We'll have to catch up again soon.
Love it. Mm.
Okay.
Mwah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. And then we will stop there. Thank you so much to Amal for coming by. This was such an amazing conversation. I learned so much. Like I said, I didn't really know that much going into it, but her TED Talk was amazing and super educational. I'm so glad I was able to have this conversation with her to kind of follow up on that as well. I will have links to her TED Talk, her website, for coaching, and then all of her social medias on the captions and in the show notes. So please keep an eye out for that. And thank you once again for coming and sharing in this space with me and learning. And I can't wait to sit with you again next week.